our former heads of state, our former presiding officers who are here, our First Lady, the judiciary, the premiers of our provinces, the speakers, and all honored guests that have been invited by Parliament to grace this important occasion where we would be listening to the State of the Nation address. Would like also to acknowledge our members at home who are watching these proceedings online. Honorable members, the President has called this joint sitting of the National Assembly and the National Council of Provinces in terms of Section 84, subsection 2D of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, read with Joint Rule 13, subsection 1, subsection A, to deliver his State of the Nation address to Parliament. I now call on the Honorable the President, His Excellency Matamela Cyril Ramaphosa, to address the joint sitting. Honorable President. Honorable members, may we be seated to allow the President to address the nation. Honorable President.
Speaker of the National Assembly, Ms. Togoti Diza, the Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, Ms. Refile Mtsweni-Tsipane, former President Kgalema Motlanthe, former Chairperson of the NCOP, Mr. Amos Masondo, former Chairperson of the NCOP, Dr. Naledi Pandor, Mayor of Cape Town, Alderman Jordan Hill-Lewis, he was nervous. He thought I wouldn't be able to pronounce his first name because it's wrongly spelled. Deputy Chief Justice Dunstan Mlambo, Chairperson of the National House of Traditional and Khoisan Leaders, Khosi Thabo Siyakhlulo, Isithwalandwe, Mayor Sophie de Bruyn, President of Contralesa, Khoshi Mutupa Mukwena, members of Parliament, premiers of our provinces, fellow South Africans. 70 years ago, thousands of women of all races marched to the Union buildings, their hearts beating with a common purpose. Armed with extraordinary cunning and resolve, these women braved police checkpoints and harassment. In a voice loud and clear, they said, "We shall not rest until we have won for our children their fundamental rights of freedom, justice, and security." We recall the powerful image of Lillian Ngoyi, Helen Joseph, Sophie de Bruyn, and Rahima Musa, carrying armfuls of petitions to lay at the doorstep of a prime minister who did not dare to meet them. Every petition they handed over carried the weight of justice. Each of the 100,000 signatures they had collected expressed a desire for freedom and equality. For 30 minutes, the 20,000 women stood on the steps of the amphitheater of the Union buildings in silence, not singing, not moving, not speaking. The powerful imagery of these women standing in silence illustrated their resolve and their commitment to bring change about. Their silence reflected the deep emotional pain and frustration born out of systemic apartheid oppression. Their silence showcased the sorrow and the anger that these women felt in their fight for justice and equality. Their silence was long enough to be unsettling to the apartheid officials who were watching them. In that quiet moment, they showed the world that it is not the shouts of anger, but the stillness of determination that moves mountains. After the silence came the singing of the now eternally famous chant that has gone down in our struggle history, symbolizing the powerful role played by women in the struggle against apartheid. They chanted, "Watinta bafazi, watinti mbogodo." Translated, it means you strike a woman, you strike a rock. It is said that the women's chant rolled down the terraces of the Union buildings, turning the seat of state power into a stage of protest, where courage meets authority. This evening, we are honored to have amongst us Mam Sophie de Bruyn, one of the leaders that marched and a stalwart of our struggle for freedom. She and many other women who have made enormous sacrifices in our struggle for freedom remind us that women have always been at the forefront of change, ready to stand up, to be counted, to speak out, and never back down in the fight for justice. To mark this anniversary, I'd like to ask you to rise and give a standing ovation to the women of South Africa who marched on the Union buildings in 1956.
We may be seated.
Mam Sophie de Bruyn, I can see where you are seated. Please stand up so that we can see you. It was 50 years ago, in that same spirit of defiance and struggle, that young people in Soweto walked out of school and marched towards Orlando Stadium to oppose the imposition of Afrikaans as a medium of instruction and the hated system of Bantu education. Their courage in the face of a brutally oppressive regime reverberated around the world and brought renewed attention to our struggle. The determination and sacrifices of the youth of 1976 and the generations of young people that would follow continue to inspire us. We thank the young people of 1976. "30 years ago, in 1996, in this very precinct, in the Houses of Parliament, the Constitutional Assembly adopted the text on which our democratic nation is founded. Our Constitution reflects the spirit of those women who marched in 1956, and the young people of 1976, and the many South Africans from all walks of life who fought for our freedom. It is a constitution that reflects the aspirations of the people of South Africa for a nation that is united and at peace, a nation that has thrown off the shackles of oppression and a divided past. It is a constitution that calls on us not only to redress the injustices of the past, but to progressively realize the right of all South Africans to housing, to health, to food, to water, to social security, to education, and to a better and prosperous life for all. Today, we must realize these aspirations in a world that is rapidly changing, a world in which narrow self-interest has replaced the common good, a world in which trade is used as an instrument of cohesion, a world in which might is right and the powerful impose themselves on the weak. To navigate this new world, we must draw on our strength as a nation. Our strength comes from our values, as articulated in our Constitution. The values of dignity, of equality, of non-racialism, non-sexism, diversity, and of the inherent worth of every person. It comes from our people. Our strength comes from our people, from our tolerance, from our generosity, kindness, and solidarity. It comes from our steadfast commitment to upholding the rights and affirming the dignity of people in our society who face prejudice and discrimination, including persons with disabilities and members of the LGBTQIA+ community. Our strength comes from our determination and resolve. It comes from our creativity and inspiration. As we navigate this new world, we must rely on that strength, the strength that comes from our natural endowments, from the minerals in our earth and the richness of our soil, from the beauty of our mountains and shores. Our strength comes from our institutions, which are robust, independent, and from the spirit of democracy and freedom that lives deep within all of us. Our strength and power comes from one another. It comes from what we can achieve when we work together. Our strength also comes from our respect for one another, even as we may differ on various issues. Our strength also comes from our sporting men and women who continue to lift the South African flag on the world stage and bring glory to our nation. Now, as we reflect on the state of our nation, we can say that we are stronger today than we were a year ago. Our economy is growing again, and this growth is gathering pace. While we have experienced 4 consecutive quarters of GDP growth, we know that it has to grow much higher and much faster to meet our social and economic challenges. We have achieved 2 consecutive primary budget surpluses. Our credit rating has improved. Interest rates are coming down. And inflation is at its lowest level in 20 years. We are on a clear path of stabilizing our national debt. The rand has strengthened against the dollar. The Johannesburg Stock Exchange, the largest stock exchange on the African continent, has performed exceptionally well over the past year. This growth reflects broader economic recovery, investor confidence, and increasing interest in South Africa's economy and equities. Our borrowing costs have been declining. Through Operation Vulindlela, we've made significant progress in accelerating economic reform and opening the way for investment competition. We have brought an end to load shedding and built a more dynamic and resilient energy system. We have made progress in improving the performance of our ports and freight rail lines, steadily increasing the volume of goods that we move in and out of our country. We have restored our passenger rail system. More and more commuters are now able to travel to work on newly locally made trains, significantly reducing their traveling costs. We are investing across our country in roads, in bridges, in rail lines, in ports, in dams, and in solar farms. We have created over 2.5 million opportunities through the presidential employment stimulus, mainly for young people and women. The expanded works program and community work program continue to offer job opportunities to many throughout the country. Last year, we saw the highest matric pass rate in our history, with more than two-thirds. Now, with more than two-thirds of all bachelor passes coming from schools in the most disadvantaged communities. Now, as the economy continues to grow, the rate of unemployment must come down. By expanding our social protection system through the SRD grant, we have reduced the number of people living in food poverty. We are strengthening our anti-corruption laws. Our country has been removed from the gray list of financial action task team. We continue to make the progress that was difficult to make in previous years. The work we have done to rebuild key institutions from state capture is showing results. The South African Revenue Service is once again a world-class tax authority. The investigating directorate continues with its work and is making progress in the prosecution of those who need to be prosecuted. Most importantly, our democratic system is maturing. Our democratic system is maturing and growing stronger. The government of national unity, you will love this, has shown that it is possible for South Africans to come together from across the political spectrum to work on a common agenda for growth and progress. Last year, we hosted the leaders of the world for a successful G20 summit, which showcased our country's strength on the global stage. Confidence is rising amongst investors, business people, and consumers. Now, these improvements are the result of a determined effort across government and across society. They show what is possible when we work in unity and we work with unity of purpose. Now we have a unique window of opportunity to translate these gains into sustained growth. Despite this progress, we must be honest about the challenges that we still face. Although we are moving forward, we must not claim any easy victories. We are still far from where we need to be. For too many people, life remains hard. Jobs are scarce and opportunity is out of reach. South Africans are worried about violent crime and corruption. They are concerned at the state of local government and its inability to deliver basic services in many parts of the country.